On this episode of the Leadership Puzzle, we're going to discuss about how far out we should be setting expectations for that brand new employee. Hello, and welcome to the Leadership Hustle for executives whose companies are growing fast and need leaders who are ready. Welcome to this episode of the Leadership Hustle. I'm Andrea Fredrickson, and I'm joined with
Michelle Hill.
And we're here today to discuss the topic of expectations. And before you yawn and drone, it is so interesting how this topic comes up, I'm guessing, almost every coaching session I'm in. I'm guessing every class we talk about expectations. And it's still a little surprising to me that people are not setting clear expectations, even though they think they have, right?
Well, and you know, I've got some people, a lot of these conversations I've had recently and they just don't want to create fear or stress. So they soften up, lighten up that expectation, lower the expectation. So, and then when the person is not meeting the expectation,
it's in their head.
They'll almost help them give an excuse on why, why they didn't meet it,
right.
And but a big component, and so there's that caring aspect, but people are saying, well, they're already stressed. I don't want to stress them more. I feel like I'm overburdening them, and and as I'm sitting there, I'm like, well, how would you feel if you didn't know you weren't meeting the expectation, and it wasn't because you can't do it, it's because no one told you what it was.
Right.
It's that it's been adjusted a little bit. And it's like, and it's not about them meeting those expectations today. It's about where are they at, where do we need to get them, and let's talk about progress and what's the little tweaks they're making, and those discussions that occur in the one-on-one.
Right. I'm hearing, and I'm guessing more so in the last 4 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. It may have been happening more. I just don't remember it as much, if that's the case.
This is a little window.
Right? This is a little window. That people are excusing or creating the excuses as to why they don't want to give this job or this responsibility to an employee, when in all reality, that's part of the job description. That's what they were hired for.
Correct.
And for some, they don't ever get it because the manager keeps it, because either they don't want to have the conversation and have that retaliation, or hear that, well, you're going to pay me more. It's like, but that's your job, but you never told me that.
Correct.
Right? Or the employee is stressed. And whenever we change something, there's always some amount of stress. Change causes our body to recognize their stress. Yes. It's not really stress, somebody's going to kill you. It's stress, this is something different, right? And so recognizing that. So I was talking to a director who was getting ready to onboard a manager. And he asked me, and this was the second manager that he was bringing on, not replacing the same position, just another manager that was reporting directly to him. And he said, so, what are the things that I should be including in their onboarding? I said, tell me what you have already. And so he gave me this list of, they're going to sit with this person, they're going to sit with that person, and they're going to talk about these topics and things like that. And I'm like, time out. I said, let's back all the way up. And I'm a firm believer in beginning with the end in mind.
Yes.
Okay. So I said, I want you to paint a picture of what the next 2 years are going to be for this employee. And of course, I'm seeing him on Zoom, and he's got his head cocked like, what? What are you talking about? And so I said, okay, if we said, in 2 years, new employee, I expect you to be in this vicinity. I expect you to be able to do this and this on your own, make these decisions, take care of this budget, do all those things in 2 years. In 1 year, so in 1 year from now, I expect you should be able to do these things independently. You own this, you carry this is your responsibility. And then what we're going to do is, by the end of your 90 days, by the end of your 180, I'm going to set other expectations. In reality, what I'm saying is, here's your 2-year growth plan, but it includes all the expectations of the job responsibilities.
Yes.
Some jobs, especially management jobs, take a year, 18 months, 2 years, maybe a little bit more because you have to go through
fully,
cycles.
Yes,
like
fully.
budget cycles and
Yes.
and
Have those experiences.
all those things. And he's like, I have to know that? I'm like, let's start there and work backwards. I said, most of us, what we're doing is we're iterating.
Well, they're just diving into the weeds of
check this box.
Yeah, and what do I have to tell them right now?
Right. And more than likely, the position's been open for a little bit. So now it's like, I need to get these hot fires off my plate, right?
Yeah.
And get things moving. So when we're looking at situations like that, what are the struggles that you are finding that people are facing? It's like, do they get that big picture, or what are you noticing?
Well, I would, everyone will say, oh, well, they've been given a job description. Those job descriptions sometimes are not written the most clear. It doesn't draw a picture for people more often than not, right?
They'll say, they do these things, not what you own.
Correct. And it's like, okay, that's a nice tool to reference and so forth. But, they're not drawing out that big picture, and they're not really backwards. They're not backwards planning.
Sure.
And then what they're finding is a couple different things are happening. They are recognizing that this person's working really hard, but they're not meeting the expectation, but maybe they didn't give them the full expectation during all of this things that were happening.
Don't.
Yeah. And so then there's a little bit of I don't want to burden them. I don't want to stress them. I'll get to it eventually. So then they withhold it. Or maybe there's also some of the mindset I will hear people talk about was, they're just not going to do it as good as me or as fast. Right. And well, sorry, no shit. They're brand new.
You've been practicing.
Yeah. You've been practicing for how many years? And they're brand new. So again, it goes back to progress, focusing on that. This is and believe they can do this, you're going to get them there, right? Through experiences and practice and feedback and so forth. But they're finding that they're lowering those expectations, and they're also keeping responsibility of things that really belong to the other role.
So they can't do their high payoff
Exactly.
things.
So now they're overwhelmed because they can't focus on, getting things done because of, or doing extra things or being involved in other things they want to get involved in because they're still doing these things.
And they're resenting people for going home early or not giving extra effort. It's like, do you have this expectation of effort? And so as I'm talking to this director, I asked him, I said, if you create this roadmap, I said, I understand that it's a work in progress. Correct. It can evolve. They may get the skills sooner. They might, may take a little extra time.
Yes.
But if you have that roadmap, what does it do? And he just sat there. He's like, now I know what to talk about in the one-on-ones. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It sets the whole next year to two with what our one-on-ones are.
Right. And how are they performing? And then, that's the bricks in between the mortar, or that's the bricks, and then the mortar becomes, how well are they communicating? What's their timeliness or things?
What do I need to give them feedback on?
What are they exactly? And so, I'm a big fan of this backwards planning and setting those expectations. Yes. Now, I have to admit, the last person we brought on, I did not do this. I didn't even take my own medicine here. I'm like, oh my gosh, Andrea. I might have had some expectations, but did I have that conversation with her as clearly? I can give you all kinds of excuses like, I haven't brought anybody on for so many years or whatever. It doesn't make any difference. I did not follow my own advice. So, this might be a really short episode in that when we look at people not setting clear expectations, we're talking about from the day they start.
Yes.
And HR cannot give this to them. This is a manager. This is the hiring manager.
This is the person who's leading them.
Yes.
I mean, sometimes when you say hiring manager, I think of a recruiter or whatever. Every organization's different.
Sure.
But it's the person, it's their leader. It's the person who's responsible for their success.
Right.
And they have to be having those conversations, big picture from day one, and draw out, backwards plan it, let them, get a better feel for it. And some of the things that will help, it's either going to help this person feel, oh my gosh, I've got a lot to learn and be excited and feel good. And when it helps reduce uncertainty. Yes, with some people. The other thing it does is you may have someone hiring isn't, it's not a perfect roadmap.
There's a little bit of an art to it.
And sometimes we might get a really good person, but maybe they're just not the best for the role. when we draw out this big picture and do the backwards planning, there's opportunities as that person is learning and they're starting to have I'm going to be doing this and then this, and they may identify that maybe this isn't for me.
Right.
So I truly believe it helps us identify sooner than later. Was this a good fit? Did we make a good decision? Because
and it can be part of that interviewing process. This is what this plan looks like.
It definitely can be. But it's got to be repeated though too.
All
because
the time.
The facts are, if you're in the middle of an interview and if they go through this great plan, they're not going to remember it all.
No, that's the first iteration, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's got to be repeated.
The other thing that I really want managers who implement this to be aware of is when the employee is struggling, that's the opportunity to have the conversations like, how do we overcome the struggle? So is it the person needs to learn better time management? Don't automatically assume that they are already overworked. They might be, but have we asked them? And have we had the conversations like, how are you doing this? What's it doing? It's like they may not realize there's an automation or the workaround that makes it easier, faster, and things like that. So struggling employee simply says we're not on track or we may have overestimated something, but I think it's really much more an opportunity to have a discussion that says, how do we overcome barriers? And we're going to have to teach people that that's what we do. We overcome the challenges, the barriers, I'm short a few people. Okay, so what are we going to do and how long are we going to have to do that?
What do we have to do to get through this, right?
Yes.
And then how do we, but it's all through those discussions, conversations.
And those are the one-on-ones.
Yes.
So, let's go back. The first the thing that's most important about this episode is recognizing that you can't lead these little breadcrumbs and expect people to understand the big picture, right?
Yeah, no.
It's here's what the big picture looks like. Here's 2 years. If you can't do 2 years, do 1 year, because maybe you say 1 year is like, well, that's when I can probably do a wage increase. Okay, but here's the thing that they're going to have to be able to do in order to get the wage increase, because they have to be doing at least the expectation of the job. And if they do more, that's the discretionary effort that we're looking for. So start with a 2 year, 1 year look out. Then what are the smaller chunks that we can look at? I'm not talking week to week.
No.
Only during the first month. Here's what I would like to be able to do.
Looking at, you're
week
evaluating.
to week, and then month, and then we start looking at quarters. So break it down, give people milestones, give them the kudos that they need.
Give them progress, support when you're noticing them making progress.
And tie that into the one-on-ones, which are the developmental parts of the conversation, so that by the time we get to the review, this is foregone conclusion. We already know where we're at. This is not a surprise on what we're doing, and they can be talking in the one-on-ones about what do we see the next goal will be? What's the next period of time that we're looking at? And there's some our expectations that we already have, and are there other things that are discretionary that are in addition to what the employee wants?
Yes.
Short episode, but I think it's really important for people to see that
I'm
big
hearing
picture.
this one a lot.
I agree. Thanks for joining us on this episode of The Leadership Hustle. And don't forget to subscribe so you never miss another episode.